I'm good, Marvin. How are you doing? I'm good, by the grace of God. Yep.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man.
So,
still fighting the frame up.
So what's been going on?
Oh man, still fighting this frame up. I think I spoke with you a little bit about the court hearing that we had on the 7th.
Yeah.
I just want to elaborate a little more on that. And how this unethical lawyer that I had refused to accept the fact that he was fired, and basically, tried to have my previous hired attorneys on a Zoom court hearing, put in this media square in public and try to, question their ability as to his ability and another court-appointed attorney's ability as they had hours in death penalty cases, and then tried to question my lawyers for not ever having been involved in death penalty cases. And that just troubled me because that's unprofessional and that's unethical. The Constitution under the 6th Amendment says that I have a right to hire an attorney.
Right.
This attorney is appointed, and he's been replaced, and he refused to do the ethical thing. And so, I was surprised that hearing was allowed to go on, and, my constitutional right was basically being violated, by this attorney, by him questioning me, by having my attorney question. And so, I just haven't been able to get over that, man. That was troubling me because they put an article out in the newspaper, just basically on a hearing, and when they said justice was going on in the hearing, that, my lawyers didn't have experience and this and that. And so, they could have been questioned as well because they're not board certified in death penalty. But I'm just saying how this lawyer refused to do the ethical thing, and we, the proper thing for him to have done when my attorneys were hired was for him to file a motion to withdraw.
Right. Right.
And he keeps explaining about his death penalty experience. He filed defective motions in my case, not attacking the real legal issue of the affidavit. He never attacked one time that the officer lied to get this search warrant and pointed that out. He failed to point out one time that there was never any drug sales from me to anybody. And he failed to point out that without that being the nexus between any criminal activity at my apartment or at the house that I was staying, that an evidentiary search warrant can't be issued to search my house. So he never pointed these out. Instead, he let evidence of drugs to be brought in against me without objection in September of 2017, which was 3 years later. And then he allowed this Officer Mosley to get on the stand in the hearing and embellish upon the affidavit and say that there were drug sales from me, that he had drug sales from me, something that the CI never said.
Right.
And so, I don't even believe it was the CI, man. From what I've been hearing, all this stuff was made up after these officers violated my right and attempted to come to my house without a warrant, and it's clear they didn't have a warrant. And so this is a cover-up. And, okay, I'll say one more thing about the affidavit and suppressors. You can't, challenging the affidavit is one thing. And the Supreme Court, the appellate court here has said that in order to challenge, to suppress evidence, it has to be done based on the manner in which the officers entered your place and the way that they collected and preserved evidence. And so he argued nothing about the fact that these officers took evidence from the crime scene, their personal houses, before, and that's a gross violation. And, it shows that evidence could have been tampered with and anything. So that's a matter of reason that to argue suppression of evidence, and the fact that they didn't wait for the officer who claimed a gaffer warrant, and they knew nothing about what was going on before they made entry into attempted to make that entry, is another reason. And so, the search incident to arrest is another issue, And so it's just tough, man. It's tough fighting with a lawyer that don't have your best interest in hand. And I'm really confident in his new team, I'm really confident.
Right.
I'm happy. So, yeah. But, that's where I'm at, man.
Right.
I feel a lot better, I feel, so I go to court on the 5th. And so the judge is supposed to be making a ruling as to, if my attorneys can represent me, or if this attorney is going to be allowed to stay on the case. And I'm like, how is that? You know what I mean? When my constitutional right
crazy
is to hire an attorney. Yeah. And so, it's been tough, man. It's been tough, man. But, I just stay fighting, man, and stay prayed up, man, and faithful, man. But it's hard, man. Being here all this time, man. They've been, if the DA failed to turn over all the evidence, and that's one reason why it took a long time. And I doubt if they turned over all the evidence to this point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I know that my lawyer hasn't been putting together a defense in my case because, like I said, you can't have effective motions and deny me my due process right, and then go and Zoom and act like you're so good of an attorney. You talk a big game. That's his attorney's problem. He talked a big game. And I'm going to tell you something. You're never going to get a good representation in a case like this with a court-appointed attorney.
Right.
This is not going to happen. And that's one of the things that I've been, and I thank you so much, man. The deck is stacked against you, man. I had no idea these cops was going to do this rogue operation and attempt to come in my house without a warrant, and then the elected officials were covered for the cops. But you see that happening more often than ever with these DAs, these DAs from the same county, like in this case. They're not going to go against the police because they're the top cop.
Right.
And so if the officers do something wrong, they either fail to prosecute them or want to bring charges against them, and more or less want to criminalize private citizens who's supposed to be protected by these officers and the elected officials and have their civil rights protected. But there seems to not be the case, man. When you see what's going on around the country, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's tough.
Yes.
Look at what's happening down in Rochester. You have a guy out naked, mental problems, he's dead, and they just had a guy shot the other day in Rochester. It's just all over the country, man. It's all over the country. I don't know what we're gonna do, man. And then you got the justice system, and a lot of times, man, for what I'm finding out and for what I'm seeing, man, like I said, I want my due process. I want my legal arguments properly argued. And I think that my newer team of lawyers will do that. I'm confident in that. I'm happy, man, and I just can't wait, man, to get started, to get busy, and to stop having my process stalled out by the DA and my defense. They're together. They work together. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he just can't believe that I hired a defense. He can't believe that, Jay. He can't believe that that's true, man. He can't believe that I hired a defense, man. The God blessed me to be able to hire a defense.
Yeah, I mean, they've underestimated you this entire time. If anyone reads the police reports, as I have, as they're on the website and the Facebook page, freemarvinlguy.com and Free Marvin Louis Guy, the Facebook page, they underestimate your intelligence. Even your own attorneys have underestimated your intelligence. And the documentation that I've read and I've posted online is talking about your below average intelligence, which is clearly not the case. Anyone can tell, can determine from listening to you when you talk about the law, which you've learned on your own, that you're more than above average in intelligence. And so, yeah, of course they've underestimated you because they consider you not intelligent, but that's clearly not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, my lawyer made that motion when he put that in there about a suppression hearing.
Yeah.
The whole idea was to attack my intelligence, and Nick, this happened to all defendants. But see, what I did, I got a law book. I learned the law.
Right.
It took years. It took years for me to learn the law. And then when I learned the law, it shocked them, and it still shocks my lawyer today. When I explain things to him about the law, and I explain to him, I tell him, when I tell him, I say, hey man, listen, you have to attack this affidavit like this. You have to attack the police and say that he lied. That's the only way you can attack this affidavit. And you have to request a frank hearing. You have to be proceeded with a motion. And you have to call witnesses, you know what I'm saying, and build the case from the ground up. He can't believe that. He can't believe that.
Right.
I know that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And also, I tell him, I said, listen, man, you have to call witnesses before the trial. You know what I'm saying? You can't wait till the last minute to call witnesses because they won't, it won't be possible, and these witnesses are not going to want to show up. They have to be subpoenaed, and they have to show up to these subpoenas. And like we issue lawful issue subpoenas, right? And
right.
The police haven't shown up. The police haven't showed up, Nick, but he hasn't objected to the police not showing up, right? And he's even went in courtroom and said that Dennis Baldwin was the chief at the time, and his head investigator, Scott Meade, who hasn't showed up, and Donahue, who was the IA at the time, investigating officer, Internal Affairs, he hasn't showed up either, and they are the main witnesses to this case against me. And so if it is some critical, they're finding some critical to my case.
Right.
So if they don't show up in court, and then when my trial starts, they ain't gonna want to be found. Then that denies me my right under the the Sixth Amendment to have witnesses on my behalf. But this lawyer in court told the DA who's going to prosecute the case, Paul Williams, that I'm not going to call Dennis Baldwin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, I'm ignorant and don't hear that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, this man did so much corruption toward me, bro. I mean, and so it is just no excuse to the law. And they can keep thinking I'm ignorant if they want to. But I want my due process rights protected. And now that I've hired attorneys, I don't have to worry about that. And so, him putting the judge into this, the first thing the judge told him when the hearing started, he even tricked my lawyer, and this is what I was really upset, and told my lawyer to file a motion to substitute counsel. This is something that two court-appointed attorneys do, not a paid lawyer. When one court-appointed attorney is trying to take over for another court-appointed attorney, and the judge is in this case, in Texas, the judge is in charge of funding the case for court-appointed attorneys. So therefore, if you file this motion to substitute counsel to the judge, it's just one court-appointed attorney taking over for another court-appointed attorney, and then the judge has say-so if he wants to allow that. That is not the case when you hire an attorney. So he shouldn't have filed that motion, you know what I'm saying? And when he asked him, like I said, when he asked him to get off the case and he refused, he should have filed an ethical complaint against him and filed with the clerk's office as my attorney. And so, you know, the judge told him, the first thing the judge said is that I have the right to hire an attorney, is that, you know, it's my constitutional right, and the only way you can deny that is that it's a attempt by me as a defendant to delay the process.
Right.
And this is not fair. And so anytime between your arrest and ready for trial, you have a right to hire an attorney. And we haven't did a motion ready for trial. We're off a COVID year. The court is backed up. So why can't I hire an attorney? You know, and so the DA can't have it both ways. As long as my attorney was delaying the process for the last 2.5 years, talking about my medical issues, and that I was waiting to have surgery, which is a lie.
Yes, it is.
And he's creating smoke screens to lead me down the road to get me ambushed at trial. And so that's him playing on trying to stay on like I'm injured and playing on that. And I'm telling them all the time, listen, you need to be litigating my case and not my medical history.
Right.
Because that's what the court is for. But, you know, the DA had no problem in the last hearing we had before this, the hearing on March 7th, 45 days before that, in January 20th, he basically said that the same DA was claiming that, we need to get this ready for trial, this and this and this and this, and we have to start over. This is what he said on the 7th.
You have 1 minute left.
He had nothing to say on January 20th. My lawyer said we just waiting for me to have surgery. He said nothing.
Right.
So, but when I